The grand engagement hall shimmered with chandeliers, laughter, and music. She stood glowing in her gown, believing this was the happiest night of her life. But suddenly, her fiancé raised his voice and accused her of being a gold digger. "She only wants my money," he declared for everyone to hear. The crowd gasped, whispers rippled, and her dignity was ripped apart. Relatives exchanged judgmental glances. Shock, betrayal, and humiliation stabbed her heart. In that moment, she realized the man she had trusted was cruel and cowardly. Tears burned her eyes as her world collapsed in a single brutal sentence. She forced a trembling smile, but her soul was breaking inside. Slowly, she pulled the ring from her finger and placed it back in his hand. Gasps filled the room again, followed by mocking laughter. Her family scolded her silently with their eyes, disappointed she had ruined their chance at wealth. With steady steps, she walked out, though her legs felt like collapsing. The moment she was outside, the facade crumbled. Tears streamed down her cheeks, makeup smudging. Alone on the cold steps of the venue, she hugged herself, feeling exposed and abandoned. The glittering city around her felt merciless. Through her blurred tears, she noticed a figure kneeling beside her. It was a waiter from the party, the one who had silently witnessed her humiliation. He held out a napkin and softly said, "Don't cry. You deserve better than him." His voice was gentle, free of judgment. She looked up into his warm, steady eyes and felt an unexpected comfort. For the first time that night, someone treated her with kindness instead of scorn. He didn't ask who she was or why it happened. He simply stayed. That simple act of compassion began to melt her frozen, broken heart. The pain twisted inside her chest like fire. Without thinking, she blurted out, "Why don't I marry you instead?" Silence fell. The waiter blinked in shock, then chuckled softly, unsure if she was serious. Her relatives, overhearing, burst into cruel laughter, mocking her desperation. Her ex smirked, convinced she would come crawling back. But she stood firm, her voice clear. "I don't care what you think. I'd rather marry a man with nothing than one without respect." The waiter studied her, then nodded. "All right, let's do it." In that defiant moment, her humiliation turned into an act of bold rebellion. Hours later, under the dim glow of a small city courthouse, they stood before a judge. No flowers, no guests, no music, just two people bound by a sudden decision. Her heart pounded, but her eyes held determination. The waiter spoke his vows sincerely, without hesitation. When the papers were signed, she exhaled, feeling strangely free. Her family disowned her instantly, furious she had thrown away a rich future. Yet she didn't care. As they stepped outside into the night, hand in hand, she realized this reckless leap had given her something new: dignity, and perhaps the chance at real love. The morning after their wedding, reality sank in. Gone were the luxuries she had grown accustomed to. Instead of a mansion, she found herself in a tiny apartment, the walls bare and the furniture worn. Her relatives mocked her mercilessly, calling her foolish. Even her friends turned away, embarrassed to be seen with her. But he never apologized for who he was. He worked long hours, returned home with groceries, and made her laugh with silly stories. Slowly, she discovered that true richness wasn't measured by gold or glitter, but by kindness and respect, something she had never known before. The cramped apartment became their new world. The leaky faucet dripped at night, and the old fan creaked above their bed. She missed her old comforts but surprised herself by adapting. She cooked with him in the small kitchen, both laughing when they burned the rice. On rainy evenings, they sat by the window with cups of tea, talking about dreams. Neighbors often gossiped about their unusual marriage, but she stopped caring. For the first time, she felt a warmth inside her home. The simplicity wasn't glamorous, but it gave her peace she had never felt in wealth. As weeks passed, she noticed something unusual about him. He wasn't just an ordinary waiter. He spoke with surprising wisdom about business, people, and life. He read books on economics late at night and carried himself with quiet confidence. When she asked about his past, he smiled mysteriously, but never explained much. She realized he was far more intelligent and composed than her arrogant ex-fiancé. His words encouraged her to dream again. Slowly, admiration grew inside her heart. Perhaps fate hadn't cursed her. It had gifted her with someone extraordinary, wrapped in the disguise of a humble man. One evening, while dining together at the very restaurant where he worked, fate intervened. Her ex-fiancé walked in, his arm around a glamorous woman. He stopped in his tracks upon seeing her sitting happily with her waiter husband. Smirking, he mocked, "So, enjoying your meal with the hired help?" The room fell quiet, all eyes on them. Her cheeks burned, but before she could reply, her husband calmly looked up and said, "She is with a man who values her, something you could never do." His composed words silenced the mockery. For the first time, she felt defended. That night, her heart stirred with a strange new feeling. She had expected to live her life enduring ridicule, but instead her husband protected her dignity with grace. She began noticing his little acts, how he always pulled out a chair for her, remembered her favorite tea, and listened without interrupting. Respect was something she had never truly experienced before. Each small moment planted seeds of admiration in her heart. She no longer saw him as just a waiter, but as a man of character. Her broken spirit slowly healed, watered by his quiet love and unwavering support. Days turned into weeks, and small details began to confuse her. Once she saw him get out of a sleek black car, but he brushed it off as a friend's ride. Another time, she caught him speaking fluently in a business meeting over the phone, using terms only CEOs would know. The biggest shock came when she found a luxury watch tucked away in their drawer, one worth more than their entire apartment. When she asked, he simply smiled and said, "Some stories take time to tell." Her curiosity grew. Who exactly was this man she had married? The truth began to leak out in public. One afternoon, while shopping for groceries, she saw him hand the cashier a sleek black card. The staff froze in shock. Such cards were reserved only for the ultra-wealthy. "Thank you, Mr. Khan," the cashier stuttered, bowing slightly. She stood stunned. He acted as if nothing unusual had happened, calmly carrying the bags. When she pressed him for answers, he only smiled. "You'll know when the time is right." Confusion and suspicion twisted inside her. Could her waiter husband actually be someone much more than he pretended to be? The whispers grew louder. At the restaurant, she noticed how the manager addressed him with respect, almost fear. Even wealthy customers treated him differently, nodding politely when he passed. Employees seemed to follow his subtle instructions, as though he secretly owned the place. One night she overheard two staff whispering, "That's the boss. Why does he pretend to serve tables?" Her head spun with questions. Why would a billionaire choose to hide behind an apron? Who was the man she had rashly married? Slowly, the pieces began to fit, and she realized the truth was far bigger than she imagined. Her suspicions were confirmed when she followed him one evening. Instead of heading home, he walked into a towering skyscraper. Curious, she slipped inside. To her shock, she found him seated at the head of a massive boardroom table, dressed in a sharp suit, commanding executives who obeyed his every word. He spoke with authority, making million-dollar decisions effortlessly. She gasped, unable to believe her eyes. This wasn't a waiter. This was a man of immense power. Before she could run, his gaze met hers across the room. His secret was out, and there was no turning back. That night, he sat her down and told her everything. "I am the CEO of Khan Enterprises, one of the largest companies in the country. But I was tired of people chasing my money. I worked as a waiter to find someone who valued me, not my wealth." Her heart pounded as the weight of his confession sank in. All the strange moments now made sense. The black card, the respect, the whispers. She stared at him in disbelief. The man she thought she had rescued was actually her rescuer in disguise. Her life had changed forever. He looked into her eyes seriously. "Now that you know the truth, do you regret marrying me as a poor man?" Her heart tightened at the question. Memories of her humiliation, of her family mocking her, and of his unwavering kindness rushed back. She shook her head firmly. "No. I married you because you respected me when no one else did. That matters more than all the wealth in the world." His face softened with relief. For the first time, he believed her love was real. She had passed the test, a test worth billions measured only in loyalty. Now their bond deepened after that night. They still lived in the tiny apartment, though he could easily afford a palace. She insisted on staying until they built their life together on love, not luxury. She worked alongside him in small ways, supporting his business ideas and learning from his wisdom. Even when she discovered the lavish world he could give her, She chose his heart over his wealth, their late-night tea sessions, laughter over burnt dinners, and shared dreams mattered more than diamonds. Their marriage became unshakable, built not on money but on trust, respect, and genuine affection. News of her billionaire husband spread quickly. The same ex-fiancé who once humiliated her now came crawling back. With fake charm, he begged for another chance, claiming he had made a mistake. He even knelt before her, desperate to regain her love. But this time she didn't cry or tremble. She looked him in the eyes and said, "You called me a gold digger, remember? Now tell me, who's digging for gold?" Her husband stood beside her proudly, watching her claim her power. The tables had turned. She was no longer the humiliated bride. She was the woman everyone admired. The media soon caught wind of their marriage, splashing headlines everywhere. Waiter turned husband. Revealed as billionaire CEO, the same people who had mocked her now lined up with apologies and praises. Relatives who abandoned her returned, suddenly proud to call her family. But she didn't let their fake smiles fool her. Standing with her husband at a charity gala, she raised her head high. "They called me a fool, but I'm married for respect. That's true wealth." The crowd applauded her speech, and for the first time she felt vindicated, not just as a wife, but as a woman of dignity. Years later, their love only grew stronger. They moved into a beautiful home, not because they needed it, but because they chose it together. Their life was filled with laughter, trust, and children who grew up learning that wealth meant nothing without love. She often thought back to that cruel night of humiliation, realizing it had been the turning point that led her to true happiness. He still teased her sometimes, saying, "Best reckless decision you ever made," and she would smile, holding his hand tightly, because in the end, their flash marriage had blossomed into forever.